In Palestine, Israeli Defense Forces carried out an incursion of military reconnaissance brigade in the northern Gaza Strip. In Venezuela, a national conference for dialogue and peace takes place to ratify the agreement signed in Barbados regarding the lifting of sanctions against the country and the holding of elections in 2024. In Nigeria, Supreme Court rejected opposition challenges to President Bola Tinubu's elections victory, validating his candidate after the last legal appeal. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll begin with the news. Stay with us. On Thursday, the Israeli Defense Forces carried out an incursion of a military reconnaissance brigade in northern Gaza Strip. Their incursion took place a day after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu reaffirmed that his plan is to invade a Palestinian enclave. As reported by the Israeli forces through their official channels, it was a selective incursion by the Givati Brigade. The communication was accompanied by images on the screen showing the advance of the column of tanks through border fence that separates the territories occupied by Israel from the Gaza Strip. United Nations affirmed that no place is currently safe in the Gaza Strip. Lynn Hastings is the agency's humanitarian coordinator for the occupied Palestinian territories, said no one is safe from Israeli bombardment. The occupier is asking the population to leave their homes and go to the humanitarian zones al-Mawsaid. However, the evacuation routes are also under attack. In Turkey, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan denounced the extreme action of Israel's government in Gaza. During the forum in Ankara, the mandatory asserted on Thursday that Tel Aviv has overcome the limit of self-defense and have turned to open cruelty, massacre, and barbarism.
We have no problem with the state of Israel, but we have never accepted and will never accept Israel's atrocities and the fact that it's acting as an organization rather than a state. Since October the 7th, Israel has been carrying out one of the bloodiest, most disgusting and brutal attacks in history against innocent people in Gaza.
In Belgium, European Union leaders met on Thursday to discuss the conflict between Palestine and Israel. The summit took place at the Council of the European Union building in Brussels and is expected to last for 2 days. The extraordinary meeting called by the European Commission President Charles Michel comes after a week of uncoordinated, confusing and sometimes contradictory messages by the bloc's politicians who were both in person and on social media. Peruvian and Arab demonstrators protest in support of the Palestinian people in front of the Israel embassy in Lima. In the capital, a group of demonstrators protest in front of the Israeli embassy against the bombing carried out on the Palestinian people. The participants in the demonstration stress that although they are not Palestinian, they are against the genocide that Israel has been committing for 75 years.
We are here because we have a bit of humanity. We may not be Palestinians, but we are human, and we are protesting against the genocide that has not just been happening this week. It's been 75 years the genocidal state of Israel has been pressuring by any means possible, having the most powerful army on the planet, being sponsored by the United States to massacre innocent people.
Let's take our very first break, but remember you can now join us on TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. The National Conference for Dialogue and Peace takes place in Venezuela on Thursday to ratify the agreement signed in Barbados regarding the lifting of sanctions against the country and the holding of elections in 2024. The Conference for Peace, Dialogue and Coexistence took place at the Miraflores Palace and was led by President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro. Also in attendance were the Executive Vice President, Delcy Rodriguez, the governors of the country, the Military High Command, Vice President of Government, and different groups of the Venezuelan society, including religious representatives and also representatives of the opposition. Still in Venezuela, the Bolivarian government issued a communique note of the position adopted by CARICOM on Venezuela's legitimate claims over the Essequibo Guyana. We reiterated the right for our people to pronounce themselves on the issue and to continue fighting for a peaceful solution on the territorial conflict. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ivan Hill, in his ex-account detailed the content of the official communique, where it can be read that it also supports the initiative of the National Assembly to carry out a popular consultation on this matter within the framework of constitutional attributions. On the other hand, the text reiterates the historical rights of Venezuela over Guyana, which are fully documented. Venezuela also expects the CARICOM to play a constructive role in the face of the threat of Guyana in coalition with the United States Southern Command to promote a military aggression against Venezuela. Of the National Assembly of Venezuela present evidence of fraud in the opposition primaries to diplomatic corps accrediting in the country. Jorge Rodriguez, the president of the Venezuelan parliament, delivered evidence to the ambassadors and members of the National Diplomatic Corps in the country about the irregularities detected during the primary elections of the opposition sectors. Rodriguez detailed that 26% of the polling stations were never installed by the organizers of the alleged event.
There were 3 candidates with a chance for obtaining electoral support in that election. Out of those 3, 2 quit. Is that competitive? They gave a series of reasons for stepping down. I know which one's the real one, which is that what happened this Sunday cannot be considered an election. It doesn't have the slightest sign of reality, nor of clarity, nor of reliability, nor of verifiability. It can't be. It is impossible. You can say that 400 million people voted and it cannot be verified. Well, there is by reduction at all, because in Venezuela there are 21 million voters.
In Brazil, the electoral justice, which in June sentenced former President Jair Bolsonaro to 80 years of political disqualification, is trying him for the 3rd time for another similar alleged irregularities that could also result in a penalty of the same caliber. This time, it is about 3 complaints filed by the center-left Democratic Labour Party and former presidential candidate Soraya Thornick for having abused his position in the Independence Day events on September 7, less than a month before the first round of elections last year. In Panama, workers from different unions gathered to protest against the mining contract. Educational and academic unions announced strikes in both sectors while expressing their rejection against the mine and the environmental devastation, as well as the handing over of national sovereignty to foreign entities. Moreover, several trade unions organizations in the country are carrying out actions in the streets against a measure implemented by the executive, which plans to give a 20-year exploitation concession to a Canadian mining company that is considered unconstitutional by the judiciary. In this regard, in Panama, the Alliance United People, led by the unique National Union of Workers of Industries, Constructions, and similar, held a press conference where they demanded the repeal of the mining leave contract approved by the President Laurentino Cortizo.
Felicita al pueblo panameño.
We congratulate the people of Panama for all the demonstrations that they have been carrying out throughout the country to reject this Law 406 and the mining contract, which is harmful to our national interest. We also condemn the brutal use of force by the national police. We do not agree with the acts of vandalism, but the people are demonstrating cynicism in the streets and are speaking out loud and clear and exercising a direct participatory democracy.
The Alliance also urged the Panamanian people to carry out a peaceful demonstration on Thursday, which will take place at the headquarters of the Presidency of the Republic.
Llamamos a toda esta población
Because we call on the entire population to join us tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the Plaza Porras to march towards the presidency of the Republic. Comrades, to the workers who are in your union, ask permission, go to the march to tell his government and to tell Mr. Cortizo that he cannot continue to lie to the workers and to the people in general.
Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to watch our interviews, top stories, special broadcasts, and some more. Hit the subscribe button and active the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. One final break, don't go away. Welcome back. Nigeria's Supreme Court on Thursday rejected opposition challenges to President Bola Tinubu's elections victory, invalidating his mandate after the last legal appeal. The seven-judge court dismissed the opposition's claims of fraud, violation of electoral law, and Tinubu's ineligibility to run in the presidential election. Tinubu, a former governor of Lagos, won 37% of the votes in February, beating the People's Democratic People candidate Atiku Abubakar and Labour Party candidate Peter Obi in one of the closest votes in modern Nigeria's history. Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan said on Thursday that he hopes to sign a peace agreement with Azerbaijan in the coming month. Pashinyan confirmed that they are currently working on the draft agreement with Azerbaijan on peace and normalization of relations, and added that this process will be successful concluded in the coming months. Armenian Prime Minister also points out that the future peace treaty will be based on a mutual recognition of the Soviet-era borders of the Caucasus neighborhood.
Working on draft agreement with Azerbaijan on peace and the normalization of relations, and I hope this process will successfully conclude in the coming month. I hope that in the near future we will also have developments in opening the Armenia-Turkey border for citizens of third countries and for holders of diplomatic passports.
On Thursday, China launched its Shenzhou 17 mission with 3 astronauts on board to Tiangong Space Station. China's spacecraft took off to become the 6th manned mission to reach the infrastructure and the second to broad it after construction. The mission will relieve the crew of the Shenzhou 16, who remains on the Chinese flight space station. American ministers fine-tuned against the clock the Camel proposal to the conference on the parties COP29 on climate change. In Panama, the environmental ministers of Latin America and the Caribbean are refining a Camel proposal to take to the COP29 conference on climate change that will begin in Dubai on November the 30th. After months of negotiations, the ministers of the 33 countries of the regions have the last hours to reach a consensus on a final declaration to take to the United Nations Climate Change Conference, since the document must be approved on Thursday.
Latin America is one of the most vulnerable continents, and its populations are especially vulnerable by climate change. But us as governments have not been able to act as a bloc in climatic talks. This is a failure because it gives us a less strong voice, less solid for the interests of our populations to be reflected.
60 years after the onset of Beatlemania and with two of the recorder now gone, artificial intelligence has enabled the release next week of what promised to be the last new Beatles songs. The track called Now and Them will be available on November the 2nd as part of the single paired with Love Me Do, the very first Beatles single that came out in 1962 in England. The track comes from the same batch of unreleased demos written by the late John Lennon, which were taken by his former bandmates to contribute the songs Free as a Bird and Real Love releases in the 90s. Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, and George Harrison's work on Now and Then in the same sessions, but technological limitations stood in that way. With the help of artificial intelligence, director Peter Jackson clears those problems up by separating Lennon's original vocals from a piano use in the late 70s. The most clear vocals allow McCartney and Starr to complete the track last year. With that story, we have come to the end of this news brief. But before saying goodbye, we want to thank our Caribbean audience, especially the audience of Trinidad and Tobago. We are pleased to share our newscasts and contribute to provide an alternative news sources of latest world events. Tell you live stories of people of South and Great Hegemony India dominance. And you can find these many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And you know us on our socials. We're on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram as well. Telesur English, I'm from the South. I'm Ana Marrero. Thank you for watching.